Right, hello everybody, and welcome to the first session after lunch. So you'll probably much rather be taking a nap right now, but we'll keep this brief and hopefully a little bit entertaining at least. So we'll be talking to you today about the Apache Training project, why we came up with this idea and how it got started, and a little bit of what our vision is, where we would like to take this. So if you would like to follow along, it's a little bit of a tech demo. If you want to scan this barcode, that'll bring up the slides on your mobile phone, and they should actually follow along the slides as we talk and go through the slides. So I'll leave that up for a minute so that you can all, or those of you who are interested, scan that. It's as large as we could get it. Hopefully it works. In Las Vegas, it didn't work because the screen was a bit too small. Few words about me. I'm Sönke Liebau. I've been involved with Apache for, 4, 5, 6-ish years, I think. I'm a contributor to the Kafka project and one of the founders of the training project and also on the PPMC of that project. And I'll be presenting together with Lars Francke, who can introduce himself.
Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Lars. Oh, yes, perfect. And I'm I'm an Apache member, committer in HBase, Hive, ORC, and the training project. And together, so I'll just skip, no one's scanning anymore. I hope it works for you. Oh yeah, I see some people nodding, that's good. This is technology for you. The two of us together, we founded a company called OpenCore. We're doing consulting in the big data ecosystem. Yeah, if you're interested in that, let us know, but that's not too interesting for now. We're based in Germany, and that's all about us. Now I'm going to talk a bit about the history of the project, and I guess most of the audience will know the history already, but I'll talk about it anyway. So the two of us have created training material for years, like for professional training, talking about what Kafka is, what HBase is, and so on. And honestly, it just sucks. It's a soulless activity. It can be super tiresome to prepare hundreds of slides. At the end of the day, you're just sick of looking at out PowerPoint. And the problem is, keeping them updated is even worse. So you just finished 200 slides, which no one is really interested to look at anyway. And then you basically need to start all over because it's already outdated because we have so many people at Apache doing new things. So another solution to our problem would obviously be to stop contributions to these projects, but no one's really interested in that. All right. So obviously, we created the best material that was out there. Like no one did any better. Like highest quality, it was good quantity, it was funny, pictures, super competent trainers, and so on. And we've done this for years for various topics, and we did want to expand this to more different topics. Like we had our trainings for the Hadoop things, but we wanted something for Kafka and maybe other projects. And we didn't have the energy to do even a single additional slide. So this is what it basically looks like every time we wanted to update our slides, and it's just painful. So in 2018, we met with our friends from Innovex. One of them is in the audience as well, another consulting company from Germany. And it turns out we're actually not that special. So they also did create good material and had good trainers and all that stuff, which was a big letdown for us. But anyway, the good thing about it is they also shared this pain of having to update those slides. And they actually are a big company, like 300-something people now, right? So it was actually over 100. Yeah, well, 300 is over 100. So it was good to hear that we are not the only ones with this problem. So out of this meeting, I actually don't know who had this idea for the very first time, but someone of us, we had the idea that we could actually start collaborating on this material because everyone creates the same stupid sets of slides for like a ZooKeeper introduction or what is Spark. Everyone draws an RDD and then how this thing, and everyone does the same stupid slides. It just doesn't make any sense. And at the same time, unknown to us, actually, there was a discussion going on one of the multitude of Apache mailing lists about this very same topic. We didn't know this, but this discussion actually nothing came out of it. So it just feathered out. In December 2018, we started the discussion on the mailing list and asked if anyone would be interested in it. Justin jumped on board and a few others jumped on board. And it received relatively broad support. We were happy with that. And then we had a bit of a Christmas break. But in January 2019, we started the actual proposal on the wiki and the mailing list and started the vote in February. And so February this year, we became at that point, newest podling. Around early to mid-March, we did start discussing things because for our project, it was a bit different than for most projects. This was like we started from scratch. We didn't have an existing mailing list. We didn't have an existing community. We didn't have existing code. Most projects entering the Apache Foundation through one way or another already have at least parts of these things. Even the ComDev things, there was already like a community going on at Apache. So this is, I don't know, you guys know this probably better than I do, but I think it happens very rarely that like a project starts from scratch at Apache. Yeah. So this was a bit problematic. Well, it wasn't problematic, but we had things to discuss, like what kind of wiki code structure and all that stuff, and we're still working on it. It's yeah. So we learned the when and the why. I also talked about actually. This doesn't make that much sense, but as I already said, the motivation behind this, we are really tired of creating or having people create the same sets of slides. And I'm sure if you search for Hadoop Training Germany, you will find at least 4 or 5 different companies offering this, and they will have created the same or similar sets of slides. It just doesn't make much sense. Yeah, these are examples. How does HDFS work? How does Git work? How does Kafka achieve its performance and so on? Everyone uses the same analogies and so on. So I already mentioned this. And something that makes us cry is when we see people actually peddling outdated stuff to customers. We've created this training material, and it was like 5 years ago, and just because they are a reputable organization and they are large and it's our training company to go to, people buy these services, and we've heard from our customers, and there's a selection bias going on obviously, but that lots of these things are not very good. Because to create this high-quality training material, you need to actually have people who understand all of this technical stuff. And not only at like a very high level, but at a very detailed level. Because if you want to explain these concepts, you first need to understand them. And we have had customers who had trainers who one day give a MySQL training, the next day they give a Hadoop training, and the next day they are bread breaking or something. It's just this is not what we were striving for. So this was our motivation to start this together with the Innovex folks. Yeah, so in short, we want to be able to teach more stuff to more people, because we obviously think that we are pretty good at some of these technical things. We are pretty good at the big data stuff, but we just don't have the time and energy to create the material needed to teach it to other people, even though we'd like to. So collaborating on this material seemed like a logical thing to do. Turned out a bit different, but anyway. And this is one of the big things. Lots of companies treat this material as the proprietary thing that they actually are being paid for. So you pay $2,000 and then you get our 200 sets of slides. And this is where lots of our value derives from. So what we think instead now, we changed our mind, shift, that the value comes from a good trainer, actually. So the material should be interchangeable, but if you have a good trainer who actually, for example, works with this project or as even a committer or has lots of experience, that gives you much more value than having a certain set of slides. Because most of the discussions, I'm not sure how many trainings you guys have done, but most of the discussion is in the stuff that's most of the interesting stuff in trainings is in the stuff that's not on the slides. Like, what do other customers do? How is this handled in the real world? It's nice that you have this slide, but does it actually work? And these kind of things. And that only an experienced trainer can help you with that. So another good thing for the users is you can look at the material for free before you buy, and then you can decide whether you think it's worth it or not. You can get updated material after you visited. We can have multiple translations for the same material. So we, being based in Germany, did translations in German and English, which was also pretty painful. And the mission of the ASF, I'm not sure they changed the word or so recently. I'm not sure if this is already the updated one, is to provide software for the public good. And we want to help achieve this mission, not by providing actually software, but to make this software more accessible to people. Because if we've got good software and no one can use it because the documentation is not good, I try not to swear as much as in Las Vegas. If the documentation is not good and people aren't easily able to use it, then the best software isn't of much use. So we're actually trying to achieve this mission of the ASF by helping people use this code much more. This was still me? Yeah.
That's still you, yes.
Yeah, oh, perfect. So what are we actually trying to achieve? What's in scope for this project? Well, anything really. I mean, I had a certain set of things I thought we would have, but I think one of the very first emails to the mailing list basically shattered that concept when Isabel, I'm not sure if she's here, said she wants to donate a quiz for how to use Git that you can print out and put in the kitchen of your office. Like, okay, I didn't think of that. I thought about slides and these kind of things, but that's fine. Everything that teaches people something. So slides, labs, hands-on stuff, which we don't have yet. A tool to collect feedback from training attendees. I think this was Craig's idea. We also don't have this yet. So videos. I'm not sure. Justin, you had a video that but I don't think we only linked to it. And there's like stuff that we need to discuss. Like, we can't really host videos in a Git repository. So there's things we need to figure out. Quizzes. So basically, content and tooling around educating people. We also plan to not limit ourselves to Apache projects only. So we are happy to, if someone wants to create a Windows server training or Git, which is not an Apache project, then that's fine for us, at least for me. There are a few things that we do not plan to do, and we actually had some issues with that already. We don't want to be the official X for Apache Y. So we don't want to be the official Apache Spark training for Apache Spark. This is not something we strive for. And this is pretty important, and it's something we need to communicate better, because obviously when someone Googles for Apache Training and Spark, and just the Google ranking puts us on top, and it's on the official Apache side, it's easy to think that it might be in some way officially related to Apache Spark, but that's not something we want to do. We also don't want to offer any kind of certification. This actually has come up a couple of times since we started already in private or on the mailing list, but it's not something we plan to do in any way. And we also don't want to do documentation in the traditional sense. So Spark and all these other sites will still have their own documentation, which we will then build on, and we might provide feedback for them, but we don't want to write documentation for the projects themselves. And with that, I'll hand over to Sönke.
Yep, and I don't need the clicker because it can't go down, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll give you a quick overview of what we currently have in our repository, and also some of the pull requests that have been opened so far. So Justin, who is sitting up front here, had contributed a few slides about how to navigate the Apache incubator process. The incubator is a fairly complex thing, and it's on purpose to teach people how to navigate the ASF, and there's lots of things to do and to follow, and these slides sort of are a rough guideline to help you through that. He's also had some slides on how you create a release within the incubator, which is a complex process. So do follow these slides and treat them as gospel, because Justin will probably be the first guy to vote on your release, and he created these.
And I think he's actually giving this very presentation right after this one, right? The previous one.
Okay. Sorry. This one?
So yeah, this is a presentation. So if you stay in this room, Justin will give this very presentation next.
And the next one, I think, is actually accommodating the first one. It's just a checklist that you can use to go through your release. And it's, again, the same one that Justin will use when he checks your release. So highly recommended content. We also have some Apache Ignite slides, some fairly basic stuff, I think, 5 or 6 slides. So those are but a good introductory content. Something on Apache ZooKeeper, which was contributed by Lars. And that was actually a good example of how the original community, the ZooKeeper community, contributed to this. So Lars asked for feedback on their mailing list, and there was a highly valuable process kicked off with people contributing back and pointing out little errors and something that changed. So that was a very good example of what we intended this project to be and how we want to interact with the rest of the Apache Software Foundation. Do you have something to add? Sorry?
No.
Okay. We have a few things in the pipeline. So Lars mentioned this already. We have a few of these GitHub, actually, challenges, which Isabel introduced at her company. So she posts those in the coffee room, I think, and people can look at that and try to fill in the blanks and sort of learn the things about Git that no one but 2 people in the world know. We have a bit on Kafka security, but also that's a topic that keeps changing very quickly. So those will probably be outdated by the time the pull request is actually approved. And Lars also touched on this a bit before. We do have some content on Apache Spark, and the collaboration with that project didn't go as well as that with the ZooKeeper community. So there's a few things that we need to hash out and discuss, and maybe also improve upon our communication of what it is that we intend to do and what we absolutely do not want to be, and discuss that with the Spark people and the rest of them. Sorry? And there's more, yes. I'm sorry, I was lazy. I didn't update these slides with the current pull requests. Still the Las Vegas version. So where are we currently? We are still focused on getting up and running. As Lars mentioned, there's a lot of things to discuss. Very, very boilerplate and boring stuff, actually, that people who want to be involved in the training project don't really care about. So things like review process in Git, or where do you want to document stuff. It's no one really wants to help. Oh, well, no one's interested really in how that is. They just like to come on board and get told, well, here's do A, B, and C, and that's that. But since we were not an existing project, we need to make that stuff up as we go, basically. We are creating some basic tooling. So Christopher Dutz has been using this very presentation framework for a long time for his presentations. And he was kind enough to donate that to our project, and we are sort of putting stuff on top of that as we go along to create diagrams, enable, well, the following along that you see on your, or some of you see on your mobiles. And we're trying to get the community going. So we are trying to spread the word, which is why we're up here today, and get people interested in contributing and actually using this tooling. And I'll have a few slides on, actually it's the next slides. So where we can take this and what might make this interesting for actually companies or training companies as well. So for me, it's been quite a few times in the past, like someone asked me, well, can you have a look at this project? I don't know, Apache, Kafka, Hadoop, whatever, some sort of software project. So what I then usually do is I go check out the GitHub page, I browse through the documentation, I download the stuff, install it, probably get frustrated and figure it out and play around with it a bit. And then I usually created some slides to show to my colleagues. And a lot of those slides are very fundamental, like what does it do, how does it fit in the infrastructure, then you add some introductory slides, how could this benefit our project, call for its CI, stuff like that. And lots of people all over the world will be doing this pretty much any given day, would be my bet. So my personal vision and how this would work in the future is, it starts pretty much the same. You go to GitHub, you browse the documentation, you download the stuff, you check it out, you play around a bit, and then you start creating the presentation.
All right.
Should I be worried? There we are. So in the future, you go to our website, and our website will have a nice GUI, a nice user interface where you can search for the product you're looking for, and it'll give you a lot of modules that are relevant to this product. And you can then select some of those modules and compose your presentation using these. And then you'll only need to add your specific company stuff in front of it, and then you can inject your CI, I don't know, change the color from red to blue, or replace the, well, hopefully not replace the Apache logo with your company's logo, but add it next to it. And then you can just compile the presentation. And it'll give you a lot of content that you didn't actually write, but it'll be curated content with speaker notes and all those fine things. But you'll also have your content with minimal effort, because you didn't need to recreate something that hundreds of people have done before you, which equates to success, of course. So to enable that, what we need to do is create some sort of content repository, which everything that gets contributed to us, we should attach metadata to it. Should have it fully indexed and searchable, which is a large problem all on its own, but it's, well, aim high, right? And the composable part is something that we'll need to basically create from scratch as well. And a nice UI on top of that, so that you can actually go to us, search for a product, search for, I don't know, maybe the level introductory content or advanced content, and then basically create your own presentation from content that we got contributed by people who really know what they're talking about. So this is some of the metadata that I can imagine that we might attach to these types of things. So the product, skill level, well, content, duration. Prerequisites is something that I would love to have. So say you want some introductory Kafka slides, and then we can dynamically link, well, if you do that, then you should also have some ZooKeeper slides in front of that, because it builds on that, and this is useful to have to show to explain to people before you start in on Kafka. And that, of course, can be extended by allowing people to have local repositories as well, so that your company, if you have internal trainings, so you can link the central Apache, basically like Maven. If you have a central repository, you can have your own. So you'll have your presentations in your company's repository, and then you can mix and match just the way that you need this. Or this could actually be interesting for large software companies as well, who do a lot of their own training. So maybe they'll have a basic module that's open source, and they can contribute that to us. And then their paid courses they can host in their own repository. But because they use the same tooling, it's very easy to sort of go back and forth and mix that content, which would be, personally, I think, a huge benefit, because currently everybody does PowerPoint and has their own stuff built around it, which I've seen nothing that really works, to be honest. Yeah, and then we need some tooling to actually compose the new presentations, which I think I covered most of that. Yep, for that slide, I also covered that earlier. So my vision is really that commercial training companies adopt this. And some other idea is a feedback system, so that after the course you can gather feedback from your trainees to, well, did they like you or did they like the content? Basically usually you'll find a sheet of paper on your desk on the last day, and that asks for some checkboxes and school grades, but you could also implement this in here. And something that's a huge problem, at least for us, is always getting training environments up and running. So if you want to, well, basically Hadoop training, you'll probably need, like, I don't know, 20 machines running different stuff per pupil or per student if you want to train stuff like what happens if the system breaks, so that everybody can break their own system. So some sort of tooling around this that spins up training machines in the cloud would be a very good thing. So we have some of that for our trainings, but it's more like it's fragments that we need to dust off and fix every time we want to use them. So it's yeah, we would like to have that as a larger package and a bit polished, so that it actually works and you can just get it out and implement actually training environments with these. Is that you again?
I think so. Yeah, as Sönke said, these are all ideas, so get started coding. We don't have any of that. All we have at the moment is the content, basically, and that Sönke mentioned at the beginning. So what we'd like is also to collaborate with the project itself. Sönke already mentioned we did this very successfully with ZooKeeper. We did this not so successfully with the Spark project. They were the ones afraid that we would be seen as the official Apache training for Apache Spark, which is totally reasonable. But unfortunately, due to that discussion, no one then stepped up to actually help us to review the content we have, which is a bit of a pity. But we'll just try again at some point. Yeah, this is the criticism that we got on the mailing list, which is, as I said, it's totally fair. So what I'd like, and Justin, don't beat me for this.
Just on time, Justin.
Yeah, an easier way to release our products, because at the moment, in the incubator or in Apache itself, you need to release, like you have the proper release procedure with a vote going on, 72 hours and 3+1s and so on. And that's a bit of a pain when all you did is fix a typo in some piece of content. Like, there's no real cut-off point for some of these things where it makes sense to cut a release. So they would be arbitrary. Like, we could do a release in theory every day and so on. So we haven't figured that out. And people have said, well, we also update the apache.org homepage without a release process. So we haven't figured this out yet. Currently, Justin is still waiting for at least 2+1s on the mailing list, and he's been waiting for 4 weeks. So it's painful. At least I did mine. So do you want help? Absolutely. So if you forget everything from this talk, but one slide, keep this one in mind. We definitely need help. So Sönke and I, turns out we didn't have as much time to work on this as we had hoped. The same goes for some other people. It's just a lot of time. We're not being paid for this, and yeah. So it's just we need people to help us with everything, infrastructure, content, anything. Help with the reviewing pull requests, formal review and content review. That's another difference from us and other projects, because we can, like, for some of these things, Ignite, for example, I've never used. I could check whether it's proper valid ASCII doc and so on, but there's no way I could check whether what these slides actually talk about, the content, whether that's like correct, factually correct or not. So that's also a bit of a difference. We can definitely have people who just help with the content stuff, and we are happy to figure out all the formatting and so on. We also have some donations in PowerPoint, which we would like to convert into our own native format. We're using ASCII docs, so these slides are actually written in code, which, if we have time at the end, we'll show you. So we'd like to have someone help us with that. Creating new content. So just become part of the community. Join us on the mailing list. Give input on what you think makes sense. Pretty much anything. So we're open for, I think we're open basically for any contribution. Anything that you'd like to contribute, just ping us on the mailing list. We'll try to help you. It might take a while for us to get back to you because we're not the best in answering on time. I'm sorry. We're trying to get better, but we'd really like your help if you're interested in this. Yeah, so if you've got any questions, ask us now, email us, or come to us later. But actually, because we still have time, we'd like to give a quick demonstration. But I think we'll do some questions first, and then we can show these slides, because I think it makes sense after the content. Yeah, Rich.
So my question has to do with expiration date, perhaps.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Brings a presentation to you, dumps it with you. 5 years later, people are still using it, and it's grossly out of date. Do you have any sort of metadata that would indicate an expiration date?
So because the microphone's missing, I'm just going to repeat the question.
No, there's one.
Oh, okay. I'll still repeat the question. So Richard's question was, do we have an expiration date for content? Because as I mentioned on one of the first slides, content tends to get stale very, very fast. And the answer is no. And I assume that some of the content we already have at the moment is already out of date. So that's another one of those things we haven't figured out. But Sönke mentioned it would be great to have like metadata for these things. We don't even have that yet. So sorry.
We do have metadata.
We do?
Yes, yes. In all the my pull requests and things, there's metadata at the top.
Perfect. We need to extract that and
scratch what I said. So, but
I haven't put an expiry date in any of them, but we could do that. So,
yeah.
So that would be easy.
Oh, so you have metadata and the content at the top. Yeah. Okay. That we have. Yes, that's true. But we don't have an expiration date or anything to handle that yet. Yeah. The front meta and the ASCII doc, right? Yeah.
That's good.
Any other questions? All right, in that case, I would
probably be a bit tough, though, to implement expiration date, because I know, maybe you need to hook that up to the release cycle of the product that's covered or something. But
at least something like this hasn't been touched in 2 years. Someone needs to look at it and check whether it's still fresh.
It's probably out of date. That is true.
Pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just if we had more time.
Did you want to?
Well, Or at least clearly indicate what version of thingy this presentation is attached to.
Yeah.
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 That's a very good first step, at least, because that's missing in current content quite often as well. And then usually that's when the trainer starts explaining the slide, and then he'll stumble and, well, this is actually not true anymore, if he knows his stuff, if he's just without being just... Anyway.
That's true.
I've seen that quite a few times.
And one last thing maybe that I forgot to mention on the slides, we don't also only have to do product-based things. If someone wants to do a data ingestion training, that would be fine with us as well, which compares NiFi against Scoop and whatnot tools. So it doesn't have to focus on one specific tool or product. It can be more or less any arbitrary topic.
We've actually had people discuss stuff like, I don't know, how do I grow tomatoes, or something like that as well. So it doesn't have to be technical, or how do I fix my car. I think Merle talked about how she pulled apart her engine earlier today. So we accept that as well, of course. But we're really open to a lot of things. All right, so let me try if I can get this across. So basically, we now explained to you all that stuff about what do we want to do. But what we didn't do is tell you, all right, so how do I get started? What do I do if I want to actually create a presentation using this stuff?
But for now, you can see this is what this presentation actually looks like in ASCII doc. So I just talked about Justin not beating me. Sorry, and so this is what we write these slides in. This is called ASCII doc. If you've never used it, it's like Markdown, a bit different. I like it more, but that's subjective. So and this is how we write the slides.
It is composable. You can split your content into as many files as you'd like and just include them, or basically also drop one if you want to change this up for something else.
Another thing we definitely need help with, and no one should feel insulted in here, we definitely need help with someone knowing CSS and how to design beautiful things, because everything we created looks like crap.
And it'll stay that way probably.
And I mean, I'm sorry, Justin, I'm not going to take your question because I'm afraid you're, yeah? No, sorry.
I actually converted the ApacheCon template that we had for this ApacheCon and put it up there, and it looks nice-ish.
It looks alright-ish, yeah, that's true. But still, if any one of you actually opened that up on the presentation on your phone, you would have seen that the feather is much larger on the phone, just because CSS is we don't know any of that, and we have lots of CSS hackery going on, and so that's still very bare bones.
All right, so if you want to create a presentation of your own, what you do is, or what I do is, I head over to the command line and screw up my window managing. We are in basically, if you check out the training repository, this is what you'll get. We've organized it for now we have, the site is our website, tools is the stuff we talked about earlier, and plus a little bit of stuff around it, a Maven archetype that we'll use in a second, a little bit of basically boilerplate stuff that you might need when you set up your project. And content is where our actual content resides. So if you check that, we have our ApacheCon 19, like the presentation you actually just looked at. Apache Way is the stuff from Justin, and a lot of other things. And the new presentation.sh is actually something that I just created for this purpose. So basically what you can do is, I assume that most in the audience are familiar with Maven, and basically what we're doing is we are creating a new project from an archetype that Chris created, which does all the setup that you need for this stuff. So I'll execute that and it'll ask you for all the basic Maven stuff that you need to enter all the time when doing these things. If it gets around to doing it. There we are. And then you'll just leave the rest as is. And if you now do an LL, it'll have created your super cool presentation, which we can then head to in IntelliJ or Eclipse or whatever type of editing tool you would like to use. And then in here you can see you got your POM file, which you'll probably want to change the name of your of your presentation a little bit. But basically, that's all you need to do. So what you can now do is you go into your source folder where you find your, in the ASCII doc, you find the index.adoc.
Which contains lots of samples on how to use lots of different features.
For now, contains lots of samples, example diagrams. Not sure we should keep that in the actual Maven template, but it's useful to have a look at what's possible and what isn't, because graphics in ASCII doc are challenging. There's like a bazillion projects out there that offer generation of electrical switchboards and stuff, and all of them are a little bit painful. But basically, this is just where you start writing the things that you want to do in your presentation, and then you can add this as a Maven project. Just I can't do it because it's scrolled outside of the...
Maybe it's already added. Maybe it's already added from...
Oh, maybe it's already added, yeah.
Oh, you just use the command line, maybe.
Anyway, usually, if you've set up your build environment correctly, it should show up here, but we can also do it on the command line, of course. Basically, you just change into your directory and do a Maven package. And then that should pull everything in, create the images that you designed in source code and all that fun stuff. And this step will actually take a little while.
And at the end, it generates an HTML file for you, which you can open. This takes longer than expected.
No, this actually takes exactly as long as expected. I don't know what it's doing at this stage. I quite frankly couldn't be bothered to check. So build success, that's what we like to see, but don't see often enough. So here's our super cool presentation, which now has a target folder, and in there you can find the generated slides, which if you open this in your browser of choice, you'll get your presentation with the content you just put in code. And what this, even just collaborating on the slides that we showed you earlier, was so much nicer than PowerPoint, where you keep mailing back and forth, .1, .2, and which slides did you change, which ones do I need to copy over? And being able to use Git to collaborate on slides is, I don't know, just game changer for me.
Yeah. All right, I think that's it, right?
Any questions more questions on what we just showed?
Does it have speaker notes?
Of course it does. Glad you
asked. Yeah, we've got lots of... We can scroll through this presentation. There's lots of stuff coming up.
If you push S in your presentation, you get this view, which on the bottom right, if I had written any speaker notes...
If you go a slide,
this is actually the...
There you go.
There you go. And it'll give you the next screen. Something that's not working, you might have noticed this during our presentation, like stuff showing up step by step. That isn't working perfectly yet. So we had one slide, I think, where there was something at the very bottom that should have shown up last, but that was visible right from the start. So sometimes you need some HTML or CSS trickery to make this look good and work properly. But overall, it's actually quite a nice system to work with, I think.
I don't actually know if we've got any more time or if we're out of time.
We have 10 minutes, I think, 50-minute talks.
Yeah, so maybe just go through the rest. There are some, you can blank the screen. And what you can also do, you can actually not just do a typical left to right, like go to the next slide, but you can also go down. You see the little bobbing arrow here, so you can actually go down. You can use this for optional content. So I'm not sure if I'm going to have time for this, or I'm only going to show this if anyone asks about it. So you can include stuff from other files. So you can include images. videos. Yeah, all kinds of things.
Oops.
All kinds of different lists. So basically, it can do lots of things as you would expect, but one thing, as Sönke already mentioned, it's not easy to lay out a slide as you can do it in PowerPoint. In PowerPoint, you can easily draw like one box and then draw a text thing over it and so on. So that's a bit harder in AsciiDoc. But pure content is pretty easy to model and create in AsciiDoc. So that works relatively well.
Especially source code, simply just have it up is quite nice, because for PowerPoint, what you usually do is you I don't know, go find some site that'll do code formatting for you, and then you go there, copy and paste, and then PowerPoint will fuck up the size or the color. So that's actually quite nice. This can basically use any JavaScript code syntax highlighting library.
And you can actually have real Java files in the background that are being compiled as part of your project. And if they don't compile anymore, for example, then it can break your training build and these kind of things. So you had a question.
Just a short question about, do you have a separated monitor support? Because as a trainer, it's sometimes useful to have something share on the stream for the audience and something for yourself, like the speaker notes or something like that.
Yeah,
this is actually just browser windows, so you can move them wherever you feel like it. So it's not like PowerPoint who takes over all screen real estate that you have. So this is just browsers.
So okay, simple browser, yeah?
So while we were giving this presentation, we actually had the speaker notes on this laptop, and you saw the proper presentation. Yeah.
And very good.
Yeah.
Yep. And you do have like an overview where you can basically zoom out and see all the slides here if you quickly want to jump somewhere. And I'm not sure if this actually works.
I think this stopped working properly with the latest update. But yeah, this is like
it used to be Star Wars type of thing.
Something's broke.
And then these are some of the examples of diagrams that we.
And these diagrams are created out of textual descriptions.
I guess that was my question. What kind of built-in diagram functions do we have?
Lots.
Lots of them. For now, we have. I think this actually comes from. I can jump to
the source code.
The source code, yes. Should be in here somewhere, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that basically is ASCII art, which if you have a proper editor that does that, it's all well and fine. I think the newer version actually allows you to color those boxes as well. What I'm personally working on is this thing, Draw.io, which is an online drawing thing, which I like quite well. And they actually generate XML, which you can compile to images as well. So we'd like to have a processor for that, so that you can just reference a Draw.io file, or for that matter, even a PNG file, because they embed the source code in that, in those files as metadata. And then you can just reference that and compile that as you build your presentation. I just need to talk to Justin again, because there was some licensing issues around some code that I pulled from Stack Overflow to do the compilation or conversion. But again, we're happy to take any contribution. If you know of some other type of system that creates graphics like these and that can be kept in source code, we're absolutely happy to have that.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
Did you? All right.
I think that's it. Are there any more questions? No. In that case, thank you very much for coming, listening.
Thank you.